welcome back to our favorite stuff. That was Failed to Sync by Persei, or Persei, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Sorry, guys. So, pretty good track. I love all the tracks that we have to open these shows. That's basically how they end up here. So, I kind of go through process of picking songs, and they're the ones I picked, and yeah, I want to hear more from them. If you want to hear more from them, you can find them on Spotify or Facebook, or basically just Google their name. And if you want to hear them live, for our American listeners, or anybody who wants to take a travel to Pennsylvania, they're playing in Philadelphia on February the 15th at Temple University. The venue is called the Soda Bar. So if you want to see them live, that's Temple University at the Soda Bar. So this week, I don't have a Robert sitting across from me due to life, considering he's a teenager and has got some busy stuff to do. He will be in and out over the next little while, so I'll either be talking to myself like a maniac, or I'll have guest co-hosts, basically. Depending on what I'm talking about, I'll fill the needs as I need to. So this week, sitting across from me is my girlfriend, Emily, because she was kind enough to step in for Robert. Robert does not like not being here. He expressed it very violently in a lot of explicit languages, but times are busy, and, well, I don't have time to wait around for him. So, yeah, he's not here. So, I'll just run the show like it's a Robert, except it's an Emily. So, Emily, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. See, Robert never asked me how I'm doing. You're already way better than he is.
It's because he's your brother.
Yeah, I don't care.
Brothers don't ask each other things like that.
I do. It's my job. I sit here and I ask him. That's why I'm here. So Emily, is there any fun facts you can tell our listeners about you? Kind of introduce yourself, or?
It's very cold right now.
Okay. So that's Robert-esque. Yep.
I don't know. Nothing I can think of that's super exciting.
Okay. That's also Robert-esque. Good job, right? So I have Emily on here this week to do what I would have done with Robert, but she's a good fill-in for him this week because we're talking about our top favorite artists or bands, or, top 10 favorite music makers, as I would put it. Emily is a connoisseur of music like I am. And like Robert is, and, it's basically one of the three principles we base the show off of is music, so I figured she'd be a good fill-in for this week. So basically, if you listen to our top 10 video games episode, it's basically going to work the same way. We're going to run between 10 and 1, give a little brief, why. We're going to try to keep it a little briefer this time, because me and Robert love video games so much we rambled for an hour and a half on the video game episode. So we're gonna make it maybe an hour or maybe under an hour. We got things to do.
It's past my bedtime.
It is way past Emily's bedtime. So yeah, we're gonna try to do this as orderly and efficient as possible. So I'm gonna start off with my honorable mentions because this was so hard for me to pick 10. I know it wasn't as hard for you, Emily.
I don't know. It was pretty hard because there were a lot of artists that I'm realizing that I like one or two songs from that, if I didn't feel like one or two songs should make the list, but...
Yeah, that's fair. So, and the reason why I've loved music for a long time. So I'm trying to think back on, because this isn't just like top 10 artists that we love. It's top 10 artists that kind of changed our life in a way, or just, influenced us or something. Like, it's top 10 meaningful artists. Like, the top 10 artists you probably can live without throughout your life. So I'm trying to think back and, who did this for me or who did that for me, and opposed to how much I really like the music. And I'm sure there's some bands I left out because I did this rather quickly because I didn't want to put too much thought into it, because I figured that'd give a more honest top 10, essentially. So honorable mentions, 4 bands I have here. Megadeth, Metallica, Sleeping with Sirens, and Judas Priest didn't make my list. The reason they didn't make my list is because I haven't I don't love them. Like, I find sometimes I still skip their songs. But still, like, they make an honorable mentions list just because Megadeth, Metallica, Judas Priest, it's basically what my dad had in his car forever when I was growing up. So it's kind of my introduction to metal, which was awesome. And Sleeping with Sirens, some of their new music has been a little shitty, and it's a little more emo than the music I listen to now, I guess would be the good word. But they got me basically through grades 11 and 12. So they make the list. Do you have any honorable mentions that you want to mention that didn't make the list, or? I
guess for me, like, my list is a lot of things that, like, they make, I don't know, I guess important music in my life. And there's a couple new bands on here. Like, TJ's been introducing me to music in the 2 years that we've been dating. So, like, one of my honorable mentions would be All Time Low, which you've just gotten me into recently, who I've found out that I really, really love.
Yeah, and they're a good band.
I mean, like, 13, 14-year-old me, I'm surprised I didn't listen to them because I listened to All American Rejects and bands like that. So they're my honorable mention.
Okay.
I would think.
That's your only on mention.
That's the only one I can think of right now.
All right. So I'll let the guest go first with her number 10 and why.
Okay, so my number 10 is a Canadian band, actually not far from here, and it's Walk Off the Earth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We discovered them years ago, my family and I. So, like, that's one of the reasons that they're on this list, because it's been one thing that my mom, my sister, and my dad and I can always sit down and, like, we watch all their videos and listen to all their new music. My sister and I went and saw them in concert in, I think it was last year at some point, and they were by far one of the best bands I've ever seen in concert.
Really?
There's so much fire and confetti cannons. And they were just a lot of fun to watch. Like, they threw their instruments to each other, which is insane considering you're throwing, like, $1,000 guitars.
Oh, they don't pay for it. It's all right.
So they're my number 10.
Okay. And reasons why they're not higher on the list? Like, what held them at number 10? I
feel like my list isn't so much numbered, like, weighted that way. It's just, like, 10 bands.
Okay, you kind of threw them.
They're kind of just in there, like, there's some, like, towards the top that are definitely bands that I listen to a lot more. Like, Walk Up the Earth isn't a band that I listen to 24/7 every day of the week. Like, I love listening to their music, and it means a lot because of, I guess, getting to know them with my family. But yeah, they're at number 10 because they're not.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Favorite song by Walk Off the Earth? If you had to pick one.
They did an original one that I was in love with that I saw at the concert, and if you bear with me for a second, so I can...
Yeah, we do a lot of phone help on this show, so you can, we can bear with you. And, let her pull up the song.
It was... Which album was it on?
So for those of you who don't know who Walk Off the Earth is, they do a lot of covers as well, which is why it was so important for her to kind of say it was an original that she loved, just because covers are a huge thing of theirs. Like
they did the Five Peeps, One Giant Guitar for somebody that I used to know that was popular.
Which I'm sure everybody has seen on YouTube. Like, there's a lot of that on YouTube.
It was Sing It All Away. It is...
Oh, I know that song.
I love that song.
Yeah, that's a good song. It's a good song. So yeah, there you have it. Walk Off the Earth, Sing It All Away. If you need an introduction, look up that song. Okay, my number 10, and it starts off with a band that I probably don't listen to as much as I should, honestly, because I love them so much. But number 10 is Mumford & Sons. The reason they make my top 10 most likely is because when I was in, like, grade 10, I was mainly a punk and metal kid. Like, that's just solely what I listened to. There wasn't much else, basically, that I was open to listening to, just because I had a very skewered view on music, and you'll find that with my top 10, it's a lot of punk bands. But just a lot of it was shit. A lot of it that wasn't in my music genre. I looked at it and was like, this is bad. Like, this is terrible. And my buddy Jacob lent me Babel by Mumford and Sons. And I listened to it, and I'm not shy. Like, I play guitar. I play acoustic guitar mainly, so I'm not shy to like the folk genre, which is what they were at the time. They've changed genres a million times since. But the folk genre is something I don't shy away from. So listen to it, and I listen to it front and back, and I can still listen to Babel front and back, like no issues. I love that album, and I love Mumford & Sons because they continue to blow me away. Some of their newest stuff, maybe not so much, but other songs I loved off of, like, outside of Babel. And they introduced me to that genre, which I still listen to today. So it was such an easy pick. Like, it was hard I wanted to slide them further up just because of what they did for me, music-wise. Like, they broadened my horizons, but I couldn't do it because there's other great bands on this list. But Mumford & Sons, I love. And I could honestly pick, as a favorite song on that album, I could pick almost any song. It's just so good. Like, Babel itself is really good.
Not With Haste. I love that
Not
one.
With Haste is fantastic. There was one I was learning to play a little while ago. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, the whole album's fantastic. So if you have a chance, honestly, I don't usually listen to albums front to back, but that's one I could listen front to back to front, doesn't matter. It's fantastic.
It's funny that Mumford & Sons was your number 10 because I actually have them at my number 2.
Okay. Well, we'll get there. I mean, thanks for revealing part of your list. But
sorry.
We'll get there.
Wasn't sure if you wanted to do that or not.
No, because it's going to mean something different to each of us. So, you know what I mean? Like, where we put it on our list. See, when me and Robert did the video game one, we did that because there's probably similar reasons on why they're there. But you also don't want to give away too much. Like with this, it's kind of it's different why it would hold a place in our heart. You know, if you know what I mean? Where video games, it was good because it was good.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll get there. I'll still let you do your number 2. With that being said, on to your number 9.
My number 9 is Gregory Alan Isakov, which I think is how you say his last name. I'm not 100% sure. My sister's boyfriend introduced her to him, and then she in turn introduced him to me, and like our music taste is so different. I am much more into like the folky. It's kind of what I grew up listening to with my grandparents and everything, and I don't know, his music, it's just like calm and it's nice, and I love, he has one of his albums he did with an orchestra, and it's just beautiful. So like I just love it. He reminds me of the Lumineers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he's one person that my sister and I both are in love with, so that's why he made my list. Also, I love his music. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, I just thought of another honorable mention, actually. And probably could have made the list. See, this is what happens, is I didn't even think about this damn. It's Pearl Jam. How did you not think of Pearl Jam? I didn't even think of Pearl Jam, but they're definitely an honorable mention because Eddie Vedder is your man crush. His voice is just unreal. So, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, that's fine. I was about done with my number 9.
And favorite song from him? If you had to pick one?
Big Black Car, which I think is what it's called.
Is that a sequel to Big Red Car by the Wiggles?
Yes, definitely. Man, the Wiggles are my honorable mention.
Chugga, chugga, big red car. I've got younger siblings, people. Okay, leave me alone.
It's okay. I was singing Wonder Pets yesterday, so I think we're even here.
So Big Black Car.
Big Black Car.
I'm going to put you on the spot for all of these, so, I mean, thinking ahead.
Yeah, I'll start pulling up the artists as I go.
Might not be the worst.
And the orchestra one is the Colorado Symphony, and it's just like... That's who the symphony is that played with him. It's Gregory Alan Isakov with the Colorado Symphony.
Cool.
Symphony, not sympathy. And I would seriously recommend giving that a listen.
Okay. Sweet. I'm not as familiar with that one as
I'm sure if I played it you'd recognize.
I'm sure. I'm just not as familiar as I am with Walk Off Here. All right, number 9. Rage Against the Machine. Now, as a person who was born in the late 90s and didn't exactly grow up in the 90s, when Rage Against the Machine was at their peak, this might take people by surprise a little bit that their music is still loved by someone like me. I can't even describe it. Something about their music, and I think this is exactly what they're going for with like the fuck the man kind of mentality, is something about it makes me want to like just move. Like it just gets my blood going, you know what I mean? And there's something about music like that I love so much that it just kind of, it gets me going, right? It makes me like goal oriented. It makes me driven, and they paved the way for so many other bands that are on my list, and so many more of like your political based bands.
Oh, for sure.
They paved the way. They were like the absolute, like what's the word I'm looking for? They were the trendsetters.
Kind of like the Beastie Boys were in the 80s.
Yeah, the Beastie Boys would have been similar. They kind of paved the way for, and it's similar type of music. Like they're not singing about the same shit per se.
Different problems for different eras.
But Rage Against the Machine and Beastie Boys, like it's that punk rap almost. Like the guy's not rapping per se, but that's essentially what it is. And Tom Morello is probably easily one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Doctor of Sound. Now I bring that up to a lot of people who also like music, and they go, no, he's not a good guitarist. He didn't do anything complicated. No, but like he can create sounds with a guitar that you didn't think were possible.
But I think that's important with music too, is that the sound catches you as much as the lyrics are important. For me, like the first thing I notice about a song is like what's catchy about it, what is catching my eye, what's standing out.
Yeah, and especially like I was talking to this talking to my dad about this, and he said no, like he's not a fan of Rage Against the Machine, and he said, no, like Tom Morello is like a shit guitarist. I'm like, no, he's just like, it sounds weird. It's kind of like the way Jimi Hendrix was a good guitarist, He was super talented, but it's the sound he could generate with a guitar that people were like, it's game changing. It's different. Nobody's ever done what Tom Morello's done, and nobody has since. Like he was the first one there, and he's still the only one there to make those sounds with a guitar. So yeah, with everything they do, I love them, and they're great. Into my number 9.
Kind of going back on your point about people being surprised that you love 90s music. I was also born mid to late 90s, so I didn't necessarily grow up in the 90s. But I mean, my parents, my mom was an 80s. She loved 80s music.
Yeah.
And my dad loved his 90s, like grunge and everything. So like I grew up on the 90s music, and I really think it shaped the way my music taste is today, especially with the 80s stuff. Like I find myself really drawn to music that has an 80s sound to it.
Oh, exactly. And that's basically the way my music's been shaped. When I was in my, your shapeable youth, which is like 6 to 12.
Yeah.
Those 6 years of your life, my dad had a Zach from Saved by the Bell haircut, and he wore baggy jeans. And he drove a fast sports car that was standard, and he had a chain on his jeans attached to his wallet. Like he was a 80s 90s punk. Like that's what he was, right? So, and along with my honorable mentions, the metal and the punk CDs, he had a CD album. He probably had 200 CDs in his car into a CD changer, right? So that's what I listened to every time we drove in the car, and that's what I grew up liking. So
for me, it was, I know we're kind of deviating off of our list, but like my dad always had, I think they were called Frosh. There were 3 Frosh CDs. I don't know if they're a Canadian thing, or I don't even remember where he got them, but they had such a good mix of music, and we would get in the car and that's what we would listen to. Or Pulp Fiction, Counting Flowers on the Wall used to be mine and my sister's favorite song.
Yeah. I'll have to ask him about that.
Definitely.
Her father is noted Dale Long, friend of the show. Every time we bring up Dale, and I don't know if he listens to our episodes as frequent as he used to.
I think that you would be surprised.
Every time we bring him up, me and Robert like to add that he's a friend of the show. I don't know why. He was our first guest that we had on here. Maybe not chronologically the way we released them, but he was our first guest that we had on here, so we just like to add that in.
Yeah, I feel like music for both of us growing up. I mean, I know for me, at my grandparents, when they would babysit us, the first thing my grandma would do when she got up was make coffee and turn on the radio, and they had KX96 on in the kitchen all the time.
The country station?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So like
X96.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I grew up listening to a lot of country music, and I went through a phase where I loved country music, and
I don't hate country music.
I mean, I don't hate it. Like I have like Carrie Underwood would be an honorable mention for me.
I love Carrie Underwood.
I love Carrie Underwood. Not my genre so much anymore, but I love her.
All right, let's try to get back to the list. Somebody also came in for the list. Number 8, I believe you're on now.
Yes, which is Great Big Sea. Which is
yes.
Had to make my list. They are a very Newfie band. My whole family's on my dad's side from the East Coast, and this is a band I grew up listening to as a kid. They honestly just make me think of sitting in North Sydney in Nova Scotia, waiting for the ferry, and I absolutely adore them. They are my childhood to me. They are driving out to Newfoundland.
Now, I've heard of them before I started dating you, but just by name. Like, I literally never heard a song, didn't know the guy's voice. And it's definitely an acquired taste.
Oh, for sure.
If you're from the East Coast, there's no way you don't love this band, because this is the music they listen to.
Alan Doyle is awesome.
Yes, he's the lead singer, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. See, I'm learning.
You are learning.
So yeah, it doesn't surprise me it makes your list.
And honestly, I don't know that I could pick a song on here that stands out to me more than any of the other ones, because I love them all. Like, this is one of the albums. There are 2 albums that I know the best, are albums that like I could just listen to front to back.
Yeah. Any recommendations for the viewers that want to listen?
Well, a good Newfie song is The Night Pat Murphy Died.
I think I know that one.
Yeah, you would know that one. I'm sure it's been played at my house many times.
Yeah.
Night Pat Murphy Died. When I'm Up. They did a cover of End of the World. I don't know. I think they're just a great band. If you're into more of like the fiddly... How would you describe... Like,
it's coast music. That's all it is. It's Newfie music.
If you're into that, I would definitely give them a listen.
And if you're American and don't know what Newfie music is, this is your chance. This is your intro to Newfie music. This would be a great intro.
And I really think that the songs, especially Pat Murphy, describe Newfie life pretty good.
Yeah. All right, on to my number 8. So my number 8 is another older band that people might be just surprised that I like them. They recently made a resurgence. Tool. I fucking love Tool.
I was surprised by how much I liked them when you showed me.
They're fantastic. They got one of the best vocalists in Maynard James Keenan. They have one of the best bassists, drummer. It's just a complete band effort. And again, it's another band that makes my list that there's not another band like them. There's not.
No, for sure.
It's so ordinary with his voice and the bass riff that they lay down and the way they go about it in this weird, like, contemporary, it's punk in some cases, and in some cases it's just plain weird, like I don't even know what genre it is.
Or like super, super rocky, like...
Yeah, like they come in many different forms, and it's just, it's fantastic. It's absolute, like a piece of art. Anybody who is into the genre I'm in loves Tool.
And I would say too, like, I'm not as into the genre that you are. Like, we have very different tastes in music, but I enjoyed them. Like, what song would you recommend to someone who is thinking, oh, they might be cool to check out?
There's a couple. If I'm really trying to slowly introduce you, Sober's a good one. And The Pot is fantastic. It really shows Maynard's highs and lows, like what he could reach as a vocalist. So he, I would say he, just the way he does that is very captivating. If you're looking for more of the bassy route, as I talk about, Schism's a really good one that's got a bunch of classic bass lines in it. And if you want to check out the drumming part of it that I've also mentioned, Jambi is really good. So yeah, like they're just fantastic. Their new album was more on the weird side, which I couldn't get into it as much. But one, if you really want to listen to their newest stuff, Tempest is a really good 13-minute song.
Okay, that was the one you showed me.
To just try to get into them, because it's 13 minutes long and it's just fantastic.
But it's so interesting too, because you're not sitting there going, oh my god, this song is 13 minutes long. You're like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be. And then you're like, oh wait.
Nothing repeats itself. It's all different.
There's like bongos and...
And what Maynard said about this song this album, is that the reason why it's so long, it's like 13 songs long and they're all over 10 minutes, is because he couldn't stop writing for the first time in I don't know how long. I think their last one was 10,000 Days, which came out in 2006.
So they had a pretty good hiatus there.
Yeah, pretty much. And he went through some weird stuff himself. So, the band basically wasn't even back together. And then all of a sudden they're like, here's an album that we've been working on.
I think that's some of the best music, though, is like you turn on your phone one day and you look in music and you're like, holy crap, I forgot about this band. I didn't even know they were going to release something new.
Well, like, I heard about it roughly before, but I didn't know how true it was. And they just added, like a month before, they just added their stuff to Spotify and Apple Music.
Which you were so excited about.
Because they basically, Maynard didn't agree with their terms and conditions many years ago, and I don't think he revisited them since, so they just weren't on Apple Music or iTunes for years. For basically the duration of Apple Music and iTunes, they weren't there.
Yeah, which is weird because, like, you don't find many artists now that don't want their stuff.
Well, AC/DC went through that for a long time. I mean, they're there now. The only other artist that I listen to that's still holding out is Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks still refuses.
He doesn't have anything. I know
he doesn't have anything on YouTube. Like, he doesn't have anything. It's either buy his CDs or come see him, or you're not getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I know one is Taylor Swift. Not someone either of us really listened to. I know for the longest time she didn't have music.
Yeah.
Up there.
And I'm not sure on that side. I'm not quite sure why. Like, I'm not that deep into the story. Like, I don't know why they hold out, but they do. So it's just a thing that happens, and I'm glad they're on there now. And I just thought of another honorable mention that probably would have made my list if I had thought. Soundgarden is another one, because I was talking about highs and lows, and Chris Cornell, rest in peace to that guy.
Fantastic voice.
Fun fact about him is he has the largest vocal range ever recorded in a studio ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has a higher vocal track than Beyonce and lower than this Louisiana jazz or blues singer I've never even heard of. But they say they tracked it at that high and that low. And I mean, people are higher and people are lower, but it's the highest vocal range for one person to hit highs and lows.
Which is hard.
It's extremely hard.
As a singer, like, I can tell you, going from super high to low is not easy.
Yeah. And also, fun fact about Maynard, the lead singer of Tool, if you've ever seen the movie I Am Legend, and you recognize some of the screams and vocal tracks from the zombies, that's him. He did a lot of voice work for I Am Legend for the zombies in that movie.
Really creepy. Don't watch it.
It's an awesome movie. All right.
Okay, I just thought of an honorable mention talking about vocal range.
See what happens?
I know.
See what happens when we don't put thoughts into these lists? Like, I put little thought, but all right, go ahead.
Avi Kaplan.
Yeah, as a person, yeah.
Yeah, he used to be part of Pentatonix, which is an a cappella group and whatever. But he left them and went his own way, and his music is amazing. His vocal range, he can go, like, he did the bass part for the a cappella, and he can go so low, but his, like, higher range stuff is so beautiful. Like, he covered Hey Ya by Outkast.
It rounds out very nice. The high kind of complements the low, whereas high is still kind of like a low, but it's so many octaves above how low we can go,
yeah.
So it creates a nice round range.
He's super, super folky, which I love. So, I mean, if you're into folk music, he's a good one to listen to.
All right, your number 7.
Okay, my number 7 is Fleetwood Mac.
Ah, yes. Everyone knows Fleetwood Mac.
Everyone knows Fleetwood Mac. I love Fleetwood Mac. Again, I grew up on a lot of, like, 70s, 80s stuff. So they're a band that's always been around, and it wasn't until, I would say, when I was in my early teens that I really started listening to them, because my mom loved the song Rhiannon, which you would recognize if I played it for you.
Yeah, probably.
But they make me think of being at the cottage.
Oh, yeah.
There's Moose FM up there, which is Halliburton's radio station, and they're always playing on that, and like we always have them in our playlist. So like listening to them kind of sends me to that like zen, happy, cottage feeling. My favorite, again, they're another band that has so many songs. Like it's hard to pick what your favorites are, but I love Dreams and Songbird. You Make Lovin' Fun. Like I just love them. There's something about them that I could just listen to them forever.
For sure. Everyone knows Fleetwood Mac. They're classic. They wouldn't make my honorable mentions or top 10, but it's definitely a band I enjoy. For sure. Hands down. They just don't come close to my top 10. But it's an awesome band. I love Fleetwood Mac. My number 7, is anyone ready for a curveball? Number 7 is Eminem.
That doesn't surprise me.
Now, as a person who listens to punk, I've got a super soft spot for rap. And I'm very picky about my rap. I enjoy more of a 90s style rap. The Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Notorious B.I.G., people like that. I mean, I like some of the newer stuff, but they have to bring that old style.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I would agree, like, I'm not into rap at all, but 90s rap, like, that's something I can actually listen to. There's just something, I don't know, the sound is...
It's great.
It's unique.
It's better than now. A lot of now you get a lot of the mumble rappers, which, teach their own, but I'm not a fan of someone who doesn't put too much... Articulation into things. I mean, they're still musicians. They're still artists, so, they're doing their thing. But someone like Eminem, who brings a very similar sound no matter what, to each of his albums, is fantastic. He doesn't give a flying fuck about what you think about him.
Nope.
Which is fantastic. You can hear it in his songs. I mean, other rappers I like from today are like Childish Gambino and J. Cole, because their lyrics bring an older adaptation. They're very pronounced. They're very thoughtful lyrics. Eminem, I've been with him since I've had my iPod Nano. I've been listening to Eminem. So like songs when I was younger, I had songs like When I'm Gone, which is a song that can bring a grown man to tears. Then there's older stuff like My Name Is, and The Real Slim Shady, which anybody can recognize those ones.
Well, I was going to say too, like, I feel like Eminem's one of those artists that he's really polarizing. People either love him or they hate him.
Yeah.
But everybody knows an Eminem song, whether you like him or not.
Yeah. Up to it, like his new album is fantastic. I highly recommend listening to bits of that one, especially I believe it's called it's not what is it called? Sorry, it's a new album, guys. Give me some grief, or give me a break here, because it's a brand new album, so I haven't learned all of the song names.
Wasn't it just released like last week?
Pardon?
Wasn't it released like last week?
It was released 2 weeks ago, yeah. Yeah, which is featuring Royce da 5'9", and other two guys I haven't heard of, are really good. He has Ed Sheeran on here again for those kind of nights. Again, really good song. Godzilla. It's featuring Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD does the chorus on it. Godzilla's fantastic. If you're to listen to one song from his new album, Godzilla's it.
You know what really surprises me though is like Ed Sheeran and Eminem and how well they actually go together.
They get along super well together too.
Like their music is so different, but whatever they do, it works. For
sure. You're number 7, or you're number 6.
My number 6. My number 6 is an 80s band, Tears for Fears.
Okay, yeah.
Their biggest song was Shout. They make my list because my mom and I went to go see them in concert, and they were so good. They were one of those bands. They didn't come up for an encore, which I thought was a little weird. But
that is a little weird. When a band doesn't come up for an encore, I feel like, did you not like us?
But I also feel like it's because they're old and...
encores have been around for years.
I was like probably the youngest person there by like a good 20 years.
Yeah, but that's their crowd.
I don't know, but
I'm mad at them now.
They were just as good in concert as they are on album. Like, I just really love them. Shout is such a good song. What else did they do? Oh,
my 80s music knowledge isn't as deep as yours, so I can't help you.
It's all right. I got this. Like I said, grew up on a lot of this stuff. It's not letting me look it up. There we go. What else did they... Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That's the one they did that you would know. I love that song.
That song's fan-fucking-tastic.
Shout is amazing. Mad World is really good. Pale Shelter.
Pale Shelter's another good one.
Memories Fade, who someone recently took this. It might have been Kanye. There was, I don't know, a popular artist, and they took part of Memories Fade, but like, such good songs, such a good band. It's music that my mom and I were able to connect on.
Yeah.
So that's why they made my list.
All right, my number 6 is All Time Low. Now, I mean, it's another band I really wanted to push higher on my list. But like, I haven't listened to them as much as I really used to, and there's some other bands that I've really connected with more. But All Time Low is just a band that I've loved for a long time. Nothing Personal is probably... You know what's funny is that All Time Low is number 6 on my list, but if I had to do another, like a top 10 albums, Nothing Personal would probably be top 4, because it's such a good album. It's so good. There's not a bad... They just redid it. Me and Robert talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Fantastic. Like, I've been following them for long, but the remix I have been listening to on repeat since we listened to it.
Yeah, since it came out. Me and Robert saw them live 2 years ago in August of 2018, and they were fantastic. They're not only good musicians, they're good entertainers. Alex and Jack's personalities on stage are hilarious. They're hilarious guys. I love following them on Instagram.
Yeah, highly recommend following Jack on Instagram.
He's an interesting guy, a party goer. He's just absolutely fantastic. And they're great human beings from what I can tell. Obviously, I don't know them, but they're going into their 30s now, but they still have that very kiddish mentality as they did when they first started. If you really want to get to know them, if you like their music, watch their documentary. It's awesome on how they got started and stuff. It's fun to listen to.
I also feel like Nothing Personal is a good album to kind of...
Anything off Nothing Personal, just take your pick. Listen to the originals first before you listen to the rehashing of. But
their music's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun pop punk genre, or a type of genre to get into. Any hardcore pop punk kid would love or does love All Time Low.
Yeah.
All Time Low is they started off as like a Green Day Blink-182 cover band before they became writing their own music. So you know it's gonna be right up that alley. All right, you're number 5.
Okay, you're gonna laugh at this one.
Probably.
They made my list though.
Who?
Ninja Sex Party.
Okay, well yeah.
So
you're gonna have to really explain who Ninja Sex Party is.
Okay, so there's a YouTube channel called Game Grumps, which I'm sure lots of people have heard of. And one of the co-hosts has a band called Ninja Sex Party. My sister's, mine and my sister's friend Mia introduced us to, and my sister too, introduced me to Ninja Sex Party, and I have thoroughly fallen in love with them since. They do a lot of 80s covers, which I love. I love 80s music. His covers, he encaptures the 80s perfectly with his voice and the way he sings it. But he also has a lot of original stuff, and it's just fun, and it makes you laugh.
It's comedy.
Yeah.
His original songs are comedic, like Weird Al Yankovic comedic, and it's somebody he looks up to.
Like Release the Kraken or Cool Patrol.
Yeah, or No Reason Boner. He has a Boner trilogy. It's hilarious.
Orgy for One.
Yeah, it's kind of like that lowbrow, almost like that humor that takes you back to when you were like 14. That kind of humor, but in a good way. It's not like a cheesy, crappy, kiddish way.
Yeah, like he's a good artist. And the band that covers behind him a lot, we actually just went and saw
we did,
in concert, TWRP. They're from Toronto, also known as Tupperware Remix Party. We took Mia. It's her favorite band. They were a lot of fun to watch, but they do a lot of the music behind his writing.
Yep, yeah, and honestly, it's great. Whether it's covers of like Rocket Man.
Oh God, yeah.
Which is one of my favorites. We Built This City.
Or like they're amazing. Like if you're gonna listen to any of their original stuff, you gotta watch the music videos because a lot of them are animated and they're beautiful. They did one called Starlight Brigade with TWRP, and it is the most beautifully animated thing I have ever watched.
Honestly, I think that's my favorite thing with Danny on it is Starlight Brigade, even though it's not their song per se. But with him and Ninja Brian on it, it's pretty good.
If it was a TV show, I would watch it.
One more thing to add about Ninja Sex Party is basically, if you're going to listen to their originals and you're not ready for that kind of humor, if you want to listen to originals but also listen to pretty decent music, Release the Kraken, like mentioned, is actually a good song. And Danny, Don't You Know,
is also, it's
kind of funny because it's about him, it's about his life, in a comedic way, but it's also a good song.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not like a weird comedic song like they like to do, but
yeah, Courtship of the Mermaid.
Yeah, it's also a very good song, very funny song.
Kind of weird though.
Yeah. My number 5. We're getting into now my top 5. The distance between my top 5 and my 6 through 10 is exponential. Like, these 5 came to my brain right away.
Yeah.
And they hold their concrete top 5 to me.
I am interested to find out what your top 5 are because, like, I have some idea. So I'm interested to kind of see if I was right in my guessing.
So number 5 is Pierce the Veil.
Okay.
They have held such a deep place in my heart. The music is just, it's a different type of punk. His voice is absolutely unique. It's a very unique kind of, like, I don't know how to really, they're more of a hardcore punk, but it's such a unique sound that you just gotta listen to them to kind of, like, honestly, I don't even know how to describe it. You just gotta listen to them to kind of get a feel for their sound and for his voice. And again, there's more of a hardcore band, which is also a big part of my genre, but you just gotta listen. That's all I can really say about this band. I discovered them again in high school. I discovered they've only got 4 albums, which is weird for a band that's been around a lot longer than you would think.
Because how long have they been around for?
Probably mid-2000s.
So, like, we're in 2020 now, so...
Yeah, so, I mean, my favorite album by them is the one I got introduced to, which is Collide with the Sky. It is actually... since then, it has gone gold, I believe, with record sales. And a song off there, King for a Day, which they did with Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens, has gone platinum. So they've done, they've got the success there. I've seen them live once. I've only got to see them live once, and it wasn't even their set. I saw them at my very first Warped Tour. They put on a fantastic set, an absolute fantastic set. They were fun to see. But yeah, check it out. Collide with the Sky. Yeah, check out if you want more of like a really hardcore song. King for a Day with Kellen Quinn is just, it's straight down your throat hardcore kind of stuff. If you're looking for more of their more melodic stuff, I would say move into their next album, which was Misadventures. I would say something like Circles or Song for Isabel. And if you're looking for the soft stuff that they can do, Hold On Till May, especially Just Passing Bell, Let's Talk Day, is a really good song to listen to. It's all about mental health and stuff, and
which is good to talk about.
It's a really good acoustic song that they've done multiple times in multiple different versions, but it's a fantastic song. So yeah, they made my top 5.
So my number 4 is a relatively new band for me, but one that I've just like taken to right away is Billy Talent, which I can thank you for.
Yeah.
When we first started dating, like I remember hearing him playing the songs in the car and being like, oh, like this band's kind of cool. I like the way they sound. And I'd say in the last, 3 months?
Yeah, I would say
4 months, I started downloading it for myself.
Especially since their new stuff is coming out.
And like, it's just music. Like, I don't skip it, and I just turn it up loud to the point where my car is shaking because it's that type of music. Like, you just want to rock out to it. And
for sure,
this one's kind of special to me because I like being able to relate to you with music. Like, I keep saying, we have different music tastes. So, like, being able to have a band where we both get excited when new music comes out, and I don't know. I really, really like them. Also, being Canadian is really cool. I love supporting Canadian.
Listed top 50 Canadian bands by CBC. I don't know where they were, but they were in that list.
They're awesome. Really like them. Don't really have too much to say. Afraid of Heights. I love Afraid of Heights. Louder Than the DJ. I also love. And their new song that they just released, like I think
Reckless Paradise.
I think I listen to it at least twice a day.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I will elaborate on them in a minute. My number 4 is a band that's made a resurgence, and their resurgence kind of made me want to love them even more. They've always been there when I've needed good music to fall back on. That's Alexisonfire. Now, there's a couple different reasons why I like Alexisonfire. One, Dallas Green is probably one of the greatest music creators of all time.
He is beautiful. Like, if you're not as into the punk, but you want to listen to him, City and Color, fantastic.
And City and Color, Dallas Green, you could see where he got the name. I thought it was very funny. But that's more of his softer stuff. His voice is angelic.
It's beautiful.
It's absolutely, it's out of this world. He writes the music for Alexisonfire. He plays lead guitar. And like George's screaming is different. Like his voice is very, like you're able to pick it up right away because his screaming is different from everybody else's. They're another Canadian band. They're from Toronto.
Go Canada.
And yeah, they're just like This Could Be Anywhere in the World. Captivated me. Like I learned to play on the guitar at a very young age. Just because of its different sound, like, and it's like great mix. And I related a band. I can't remember what band that we had intro this show, but I related them to Alexisonfire because like you have this hard instrument and George screaming, this hard kind of music, and then you have Dallas breaking it up with his voice, and sometimes they sing at the same time, and it's a nice intertwine of the two sides.
What's the one that you've been listening to lately?
A lot of stuff. I can show you more once we're done, because when you have his voice, especially when it stands alone, there's this one that I'm really To a Friend.
I think that's the one that I'm talking about. You've been playing it more recently.
Yeah, To a Friend. At the very end, Dallas does his part by himself,
yes.
With no music, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Their newer songs, like Familiar Drugs, is really good. If you want to listen to their older stuff, you can definitely, this is the kind of band where you can tell where they've made money, because their first album or two, it's still good, but the music quality is all over the place. If you want to listen to that kind of stuff, which is still good, Dog's Blood is a fantastic song. It's a super heavy song. But Dallas plays a big part in that one too. So yeah, I fucking love this band. This band is a band I don't skip. We're getting into the non-skip territory. Four and Down is a band I don't skip when it comes on. Comes on my phone. All right, top three starting now.
All right, my number 3 is the Lumineers.
Okay. All right, cool.
I got into them when their first album came out, and I fell in love with it. There's, like we said, not many albums that you can listen to front to back.
Not anymore.
But their first album, which I think is Ho Hey, or no, it's called the Lumineers.
It has Ho Hey on it.
Yeah. I just, like, I could sing every song off the top of my head. Like, I listened the shit out of that album. It just, like, I would have been in, like, grade 10, I think, when it came out. And I don't know, it's high school to me, which can be good or bad depending on how your high school idea is. But I don't know, I just love them. It's been a band that's been with me through a lot, and they've been releasing new stuff lately, which is amazing, because they went like a good 6 or 7 years without releasing a new album.
Yeah.
And the album that they released was fantastic. I loved it just as much as the first one. So they're just like a good all-around number 3. We'll always go back to the Lumineers.
When I first got introduced to Lumineers, it was Ho Hey. It was on the radio anywhere. Like I couldn't escape it. This was when I was a child.
It came out in 2012, so I would have been in grade 10.
Yeah, so I would have been in grade 8. And I learned how to play it on my acoustic guitar, and I loved the song, and I kind of drifted away from it just because I played it so much. But Ophelia, I love Ophelia.
Yeah, so their first album is called The Lumineers. Their second one with Ophelia is called Cleopatra. Angela's another amazing one on that one. Long Way From Home. Like, they're just, I don't know, they're easy to sing along to.
Two-piece band, right? Is it a 2-piece?
No, I think it's 3-piece.
Is it a 3-piece?
Yeah, I know the one guy looks like Woody Harrelson, but...
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they're my number 3. Like you said, I kind of drifted away from them there for a bit, but I always find myself coming back.
Speaking of a 2-piece band, honorable mention Tenacious D, which didn't make my list. Just because they're awesome and I fucking love them. And just shout out to Tenacious D, which is Jack Black's band. If you're looking for a kind of a comedic band that has unreal music talent with Kyle Gass as the guitarist, listen to Tenacious D. Random shout out to Tenacious D. They didn't make my top 10. Emily just rolled her eyes, but they're definitely not honorable mention. Number 3, A Day to Remember. I fucking love this band. I've loved this band for a time. I have every album downloaded on my phone. They're fantastic. Jeremy McKinnon's vocals, since day one, have been very iconic to me. Complemented by such a deep scream. I remember the first album I picked up by them was the one with City of Akala on it. Was A Common Courtesy, and they had a sticker on it, a circle sticker that said the hardest pop punk band ever. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess I only knew a couple songs, and I figured to buy a CD to, kind of see what they were about. And they were right. 6 songs out of the 12 were your classic pop punk kind of Blink-182 kind of stuff. There's another honorable mention for you, probably. Should have done a top 20.
We would have been here all night.
Yeah. So, and yes, and the other 6 songs were, your drop C kind of just hard chugging, hardcore songs. And they keep that pretty consistent, other than their album with Heartless on it. For those who have heart, that's all hardcore, and that's an early album for them, but it's just unreal. I think one of their best albums, which is one of their newer ones, or their newest album, considering the new one still is yet to come out. I always forget the name of Bad Vibrations. Bad Vibrations is the album. And it's so good. It's the first one they produced by themselves, a part of ADTR Records. And I thought it was fantastic because I'm surprised they signed with a new record label coming up to this new album. And there are 2 new songs we already talked about recently, but they were good. They weren't A Day to Remember, so I'm kind of holding my breath just to see what this new album's going to be like. But honestly, anything. Like, if you're looking for a song rec, I can give you one off each album, essentially. If you're looking for the hardcore, Heartless is really good. They did a cover of Since You've Been Gone, and honestly, I love it 20 times more than the original song, because it's just so good. If you're looking for their softer stuff, If It Means a Lot to You is another song that could easily make you emotional. It has a girl in it that, don't make me say her name, I have no idea who the fuck it is. But it's an acoustic one that he loves playing. I saw them live with my buddy Jack, and they played for the last time ever live. They played Have Faith in Me, and they also played, what's the other song? Soft one, kind of like that. It's Have Faith in Me. Oh, it's off Common Courtesy as well. That's what happens.
I can't help you here, sorry.
That's what happens when you listen to too many songs. You forget.
Can I just interrupt and let you know that it's so cold that my feet are steaming by the heater?
Oh, be quiet. What is the name of this song, people? God darn. I'm just scrolling through their songs, but they have a lot of songs, so... Second Sucks is so good. Second Sucks is just it's not the song I'm thinking of, but I just want to say Second Sucks is so good because it's about another band that basically they wanted A Day to Remember to pass the torch on to them, and it's just a song of Jeremy letting them know that they'll always be second best, and it's so good. It's so good. Best of Me is the song I'm thinking of. Yeah, they played those 2 for the... Oh, no, was it? No, it wasn't Best of Me. What is it? It's like Best of... End of Me is what is... Yeah, End of Me. So yeah, they played those two for the last time, and I was really glad to see them grace our presence with those songs for the last time. I hope they come to Toronto again. All right, your number 2.
My number 2 is Mumford & Sons, as I said earlier.
Ah, yes, yeah, I totally forgot by the time we got here. So
for you, Babel was your introducing album for that.
Yeah.
Them and whatever. Mine was Sigh No More, which was their first album, which came out, I think around between 2010 to 2012. Actually, it might say here. It does not say here. But Sigh No More, Little Lion Man, which is the one that most people know by them, is the one that got me into it. And, like, just from there, like, I just kept finding songs that I loved more and more, like White Blank Page, Thistle and Weeds, Awake My Soul. Like, they're just beautiful. And they're number 2 for me because they are really what got me into the more folky music. Like, I always had bands that I loved up until high school, but this was kind of a band that I found by myself. It was my first, it was my first band that really, really started to get me into music, and I started playing guitar, and so they influenced a lot of my music choices, I think, from them. And I don't listen to them as much anymore. I haven't been as a big a fan of their new stuff, but Sigh No More, Babel, like, they're just such incredible albums.
All right, my number 2, I totally just locked my phone because I wasn't thinking, is, my phone's going to die too. Now, you know what my number 1 and number 2 are going to be, you just don't know what order they're going to be in.
I think I know. I know one for sure.
So number 2 is Billy Talent.
Okay, I figured Billy Talent was going to be on this list.
Okay, so as you said earlier, and me and my brother talked about this during the What's New in Music episode, I fucking love this band. They were the band that introduced me to the punk genre as a total. I listened to basically everything when I was younger. And I remember playing NHL 2006, and Red Flag was on there.
That's an amazing song.
And I was just like, man, like it's so fast, it's so awesome. So I listened to a little more and kind of still wasn't cemented in the punk yet. And then on the radio came Devil on My Shoulder. And I was like, yeah, no, I need to know more about this band. And I fell into an obsession with this band. An obsession. I watched every music video probably 5,000 times. I could probably tell you things about this band that their families can tell you about them.
It's kind of creepy.
I watched every YouTube video. Like, I've seen everything on this band. Or up to that point when I was obsessed with them. And, you know, they were just a band that I could cling on to, and it was my introduction to punk. And I love every bit of them, every album, and Robert backed me up on this in that episode, is a classic. Like, honestly, I'm starting to think Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for these guys.
I would agree.
Just because everything they put out, like, they haven't announced anything yet, but with the release of Reckless Paradise and Forgiveness, they've got to be coming up on their 5th album here, or 6th album now, actually. And every song is a banger. It's just unreal. Like, I just don't even know how to describe it to you. They're loved in Germany. They're also from Toronto, like Emily said. Loved here. And they're just an unreal punk band. They're loved around the punk community. When I've seen other bands, when they talk about bands that influenced them, Billy Talent's name has come up. They started off touring with Alexis on Fire. That's who they started off with. That's who they first opened for. And they're just a very influential and a very big part of my life.
I feel like one thing about their music too is it tells, like, every song tells a story.
And every song was written as a story, especially in their first 2 albums. A lot of them were written on true stories because it's Ben, the lead singer, and Ian, the guitarist, that write the music. And a lot of their songs are written on true stories. Like Devil in a Midnight Mass was about a priest that raped a bunch of people, which is terrible to say, but
Fallen Leaves.
That's what happens. Fallen Leaves is about the city in BC. I can't remember the city name off the top of my head.
I don't either.
But there's a park in BC that has a bunch of leaves on the sidewalk, and and that town is riddled by drugs now. So it's about that town falling into darkness, and it's about drug use. River Below is about this crazy war vet in Scarborough that nobody heard of for 4 days, so it was reported missing person. And when they found him, he was in his basement, stuck in a peril of PTSD, building bombs, weapons of mass destruction.
You know, I think I remember hearing about that.
Because he was telling us that nobody was safe, and we were all terrible people, and we're all going to hell. And he was on this crazy loop. So I can go on and on. Like, I pretty much know a bunch of why their songs are written, but you just got to listen to them. They're just fantastic. If you want to know more with the band, they did a 4-piece, kind of like a talking to through the years, with Alan Cross on the history of ongoing music, which is a fantastic 4-part interview to listen to get to know their inspiration and
just more about them.
They got found. Like, how they got found was crazy. Like, they were found by the original, which didn't work out. Like, they're originally found, however they knew there was someone. They were playing in, I want to say Ian's apartment at the time, and they were covering New Orleans is Sinking by the Tragically Hip.
I would love to hear that cover.
I have it, actually. I can probably find it for you. But so they covered New Orleans is Sinking, and somebody heard them. They're like, "You're fantastic. Like, here's my card." That producer didn't work out. But Ben worked for 102.1 The Edge at the time.
Oh, okay.
So he said, their first song they ever wrote and recorded was Try Honesty. And they off their first album, and Ben gave it to Dean Blundell, or they gave it to the producer that he worked with, and they gave it to Dean Blundell to play. And at the time, Ben was a nobody to this radio station. He just, got coffees, did whatever he could to make money and be around music. And he said, can you please, it would mean a lot if you could listen to this band, or like, listen, this is my band. So the producer took a listen to it and said, this is actually really good. So he gave it to Dean Blundell, and Dean Blundell listened to it, and he said, that's fantastic. He's like, who is this? Who gave you this music? And they're like, oh, Ben. And Dean Blundell's like, the coffee guy? They're like, yeah, like, this is his band. He's like this kid's got talent, and that's kind of where they ended up.
Yeah, actually, going back to Tragically Hip, I'm surprised that they weren't an honorable mention for you.
They are. I didn't think about them. They probably actually would have made the list again if I gave more thought.
Yeah.
Great Canadian band, holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, Gord Downie. They're talking about putting him on the $5 bill.
Good.
You can vote.
He should be on the $5 bill.
Yeah, he was great.
All right, Emily. It's come to the time. You're number one.
Number one.
I don't even know who this would be, actually.
Really? I was just about to ask you if you had any ideas. I know who your number one is.
Yeah. So.
My number one is actually Billie Eilish.
Okay. Yeah. I guess if I really thought.
I mean, ask me 6 months from now, and my top 10 will probably change. Like, it's always changing my music taste. I really love her. Her music is so different and cool sounding. And, like, I like what she stands for, too. Like, she doesn't wear tight clothes because she doesn't want people to, like, make assumptions of her based on what her body's like. And, I mean, she's 18. Like, she's just a baby.
Yeah. Recent 5 Grammy winner.
Yeah, she won 5
Eilish,
Grammys. Like, that's
which
insane.
is unheard of, especially at her age.
And, like, she just kept being like, oh, please don't let this be me. Please don't let this be me. Like, she seems like super down to earth. Maybe not so down to earth because I think she's a little crazy, but I don't know. I just really love her music. So she's my number one right now. She is the one person on my phone that when a song comes on by her, I never skip it.
No, she's good. You've gotten me into her. She's got definitely good talent with her voice, and her brother.
Yeah, her brother
writes a decent amount of songs.
Her and her brother write all of her music. They recently just directed the music video for Everything I Wanted.
Okay, yeah. Which
I haven't watched yet. But no, I love her.
No doubt. And a lot of people would probably agree with you. But like, yeah, you never know. I told my brother this with the video game countdown. It's going to be different. It's going to change when you think about it a little more.
Because, like, there's constantly new stuff coming out. There's new artists coming out. There's new albums coming out. I love it.
All right. My number one. Now, if you know me, this is going to come as no surprise. as maybe you didn't know they were my absolute number one, but if you listen to 10 through 2 and you're like, hey, they're not there, let's go to number one. I have them tattooed on my arm. I've seen them 4 times live. I would love to see them many more times, and that's Rise Against. Now, with Rise Against, for me, it goes way beyond music. Kind of like the way you just said with Billie Eilish. It's what they stand for.
Yeah.
They stand for peace. They stand for, it's not just the basic, fuck the man mentality and politicalness. They stand for everyone love each other. They don't want war. And it's just such a great message, and a message that gets lost, I guess, on a lot of their listeners maybe. But, again, I found them in a very shaping part of my life. And, like I said, it goes beyond music to the point where, they've shaped my values. They've shaped what I want to do with my life. Just their message in general. Their lead singer, Tim, I've listened to some of his interviews, and the way he writes has shaped the way I write music and the way I play music and the way I sing music, and they've shaped me I'm 21 going on 22. I've probably been listening to them for 10, 11 years now. And they've never been different, and they've never shied away from what they want to write.
Which I think is a big thing right now too, because you find a lot of artists, they're writing for whatever they think is going to be popular, like what's going to be the next big hit. Yeah,
and Rise Against, they've reached to the point, again, they've succeeded stardom, like they're just a big name in the genre. Anybody's thankful to play with them or play for them, and they just seem super down to earth. They absolutely love everybody. I've got multiple clips when I've seen them live, of Tim just preaching. He's gone on rants when he pulls out his acoustic guitar, and he's just telling everybody to love everybody, and saying that the person next to you might not be the same, but can be the same, and and they always, every time an election runs around, they're American, but every time an election runs around, they always urge to vote and have your voice be heard, and you can hear that in a lot of their music, and some of their older stuff's a little heavier. Tim used to be in a heavy metal band called The Killing Tree. But since then, since moving on to Rise Against, obviously, in 2003, or actually even earlier than that, I think mid-2000 or early 2000s, like 2000 itself, it's just been nonstop greatness. And honestly, words don't describe what this band means to me. It's very close to my heart. From the early days, like Revolutions Per Minute, they're fantastic.
The music, he has such an awesome, interesting voice.
It's very unique. It's very raspy. The way he sings is very good. He's covered some stuff by himself. If you YouTube it, it's really the only way you can find it. But he covered Civil War by Guns N' Roses acoustically, and it's so different from Guns N' Roses, and it's fantastic. That's a good way to really get his voice. Swing Life Away,
yes,
is good. Hero of War basically makes me cry. It's such a great song. One of the first songs I heard. So yeah, again, there's a lot of songs where they're screaming, but if you're not into screaming music, I urge you to give some of their songs a chance just by reading the lyrics along, because the way I look at it is when he screams, he's not screaming to be a heavy metal artist. He's screaming because what he's singing about, he's mad about.
He wants to get a point across.
He wants to get a point across, and a really good song to listen to, especially if you're into it, is State of the Union. State of the Union came out in 2005, I believe, or in that era, when George W. Bush was president. And Tim and Rise Against was not a fan of George W. Bush. So State of the Union is a 2-minute, one of their only songs that's screaming front to back, but it gets a damn point across that basically saying they like some of their lines the words power, death, distortion of truth can be written can be read between the red, white, and blue is basically a very good way of describing what they think of the government, right? And they've never failed to get a point across. I feel like I'm just repeating myself, and I can babble about them for hours.
He could talk about them for hours.
But honestly, I love these guys. They're fantastic. That's where I'm going to leave it. Other songs, I mean, Re-Education Through Labor is fantastic. And just their song titles, like, you know, they're just...
Yeah, I mean, they're stories.
Essentially, yeah. It's
or
just...
not so much stories, but, like, the song is telling a story. Like, they want, like you said, they want to get a point across.
Like, I can get behind everything they say. Like, his lyrics are lyrics that move you. They will you to do stuff. You know what I mean? Like, his lyrics are type of lyrics. I mean, they don't like war, but if you had to go to war, you know, that's the type I would want a leader. Like, not him per se, but I'm just, like, not him. He wouldn't lead me to battle. But I'm just saying, like, that's the type of lyricist you would want to rally people.
Yeah.
And that's the way he is. And that's what I find. Like, I compare his lyrics to, like, things like Martin Luther King. Like, that kind of rallying, you can rally behind them.
You don't find that with many artists now.
No.
Like I said, it's all about fitting in, and so it's refreshing when you can find a band that isn't afraid to say what they think and write what they want.
Yeah. So that rounds out our list. We did go over an hour, but, you know, that happens. And if you listened to this whole time, I'd like to thank you for listening all the way through.
Because it's freezing.
I'm not cold. I haven't been cold forever. I want to thank Emily for stepping in for Robert.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
I wasn't as bad as I thought I was going to be.
No, you weren't, actually. I'll have to listen to this episode back and listen to your dad's and see who did better.
Definitely me.
Yeah?
No, probably him. He's been on radio before. He has a nice voice to listen to anyways.
Yeah, okay. Don't fill up his head too much. So yeah, if you listen to this all the way, thank you. I'll be posting these lists on Instagram and maybe even Twitter, just in case you want to look through them again.
Which you should.
And
take a listen.
Listen to every artist that we mentioned today because, you know, we write these lists because they're fun. They're fun to do top 10s.
And it's a pretty good mix of music, too, I think. Like, you're going to find a little bit of everything in these mixes.
For sure. As always, like, comment, review, subscribe, do whatever you got to bump these numbers up. I want this fucking podcast to work, so I need your guys' help to like, comment, subscribe, review, whatever platform you listen, whether it's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening. Just do it. Do whatever that platform allows you to do.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
And your family.
And your family.
Your neighbors.
Your neighbors.
Your enemies.
Your dog.
Your cat. Maybe your fish named Spicy Chicken.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you want to follow the podcast at OFS_podcast, we are on Instagram and Twitter. I am on Instagram and Twitter as well at T_G9988 on Instagram, TJ_Gar_9 on Twitter. My name is taken a lot. And Emily, do you want to gain some followers?
I never post on any social media. I'm more of like a creepy
like
background stalker.
Just like Robert. So direct your follows to him at Keenan Robert on Instagram because he's lonely.
But I mean,